mathematicians, they're all artists in their own sense, because their imaginations are the starting point, and then they use their technical skills to see through these ideas to a fruition. You get, Einstein, what would the world look like from a beam of light? That started relativity, the idea of relativity, because he then had the mathematical chops to go, okay, how do I sort of see this through with thought experiments and then through the math? But it's the spark of creativity and the imagination to go, because if you actually think about what would the world look like from a beam of light, and that whole idea of, you get it on a train, you look out the train, everything sort of seems a bit compressed outside there, when reality, and it's just that extrapolation to 300,000 kilometres a second, you go, all right, okay, that's going to be a pretty different sort of experience. And likewise, you see things like the Brooklyn Bridge, the guy that sort of conceived that thing. And that's a, massive creative thing to do.
His son had to take over after he died. Well, I think it's problem solving, right? Like, a lot of the creativity stems from these questions that we have. How do we do this? How is this? What is that? And then you start to create the thought around it.
Yeah. And look, I'll pull in watching Morris Cole work. Because, this being a surfing thing. But watching, Morris has got like one of the most acute minds I've ever seen in surfing for curves and combinations of curves. And he's got the reverse V, which he invented for Tommy Curran back in 91 or 90, which came out of a pretty screwy blank that he got, and he's trying to shape the curves the right way. And I was trying for ages to wrap my head around the way that combination of curves work, until it finally clicked with me. And the variation between the rail line and the bottom and the stringer curve, and the way they interact in the way a board will enter the water and then turn, and watching Morris evolve that from that iteration through to those extreme concaves that he shaped through the 2000s into the into the 2012, 13, 14, 15
boards and stuff.
That's right. And then the reintroduction of the reverse V, as it's evolved, and which is now a combination of reverse V and the concaves, and they're amazing boards to ride. They're amazing boards to ride. But watching Morris, like, he'll stand and watch the surf, and he waves his, like, you can't see me doing it. Well, you can, Ty, but he does this like he's riding the wave. Yeah. And that whole thing of hand surfing a wave, and that the brain's clicking over, going, okay, when I'm up there, it's doing this, and when I'm dumping off the bottom, it's doing that. And he thinks about speed and looseness, and the combination of speed and looseness, and how am I going to make the board feel softer through the entry into the wave, and make it be able to hit a high line quickly, or etc. And then he goes into the shaping bay, and he's very, like, that's his happiest place that I've ever seen him. When he's shaping, he's got the music on, and he's dancing around the blank. And like, I sometimes stand at the end of the shaping bay, and I'm going, I've done this. I've done this once, and I'm never going to do it again. Where there's this little bump in the curve, and I'm looking at it, and he's not touching it, and he's not touching it. I'm going, hey, MC, there's this little bump there, and he looked at me, and he got his planer, and he just went tonk, and said, "Do you mean that?" And I said, and that was the end of the blank. Like, he'll do that, and throw it away. Wow. And start again.
Wow.
You harshed his mellow. Wow. Yeah, exactly. I harshed his mellow, and I went, I'm never going to open my mouth in his shaping bay ever again. I'll just let him, because in the end, that it's going to come out beautiful. And I just was, being, you hang around it, you know how to look at a curve in a blank. And I'm going, has he seen that bump? Has he seen that bump? Of course he's seen the bump.
It's there for a reason, Mick. He put it there for a reason.
Exactly. But then he'll come out with these ideas about, three-dimensional wings and And you go, all right, what's all that about? And then he shapes it, and he'll give it. Nick Carroll's a very frequent tester of early boards, and he'll send it up to Nick, and Nick will say, oh, that's the best board I've ever had in my life, and which has happened with this board that he's just sent up there, actually. So it's like, yeah, that again, it's creativity. He's just thinking, and then he makes it, and which follows over into, I think if I stop, from my point of view, if I stop trying to create, like I paint badly, I write poetry badly, but I think you've got to be self-critical. You kind of get better all the time. You're just trying to get better. You
just keep going.
And if I ever do another film, I'll be better at it. But if I don't, I really probably, my dreams it'd be to make Great Ocean Quarterly live again and then have a life beyond me, as like a National Geo or something like that. If I could get that to the point where it had a staff and people were making a living off it, and it was doing art ideas in the sea for 40 or 50 years, that'd be a great legacy to leave behind.
Would you ever consider making some sort of moving image or video or film to accompany the Great Ocean Quarterly? Do you think it would lend itself to it?
It would, to a point. Like I'd love to. I have this thought about trying to do sort of installation pieces, like video, probably, something on loops that can sit in a gallery. I'd love to, but I've just, whether the idea comes, I've got a really good camera that I can do video on. I've got.
Mick, if you don't send me something to edit, I'll be super offended. And if you make another film and I don't fly out and help edit it, I'll be really
damn.
I was there, and I was like, I'd already taken too much time off work. I had to pay for. And I wish it was one of my great.
I would have killed to get you on working on the roof.
Oh, I would have.
And if you need a voiceover, it's right here. That's about the limit of my ability that I can contribute. But
voiceover with a range of accents. I must say, I listened to your Australian podcast last week, and it was so bloody good. That was. It was
just a bunch of nerds geeking out.
It was Ganeek. It was nerd and geek.
It was so
it was
good.
Just, it was so nerded out. It was crazy because.
You know which one was really interesting? I was just listening to you.
We're talking about the Sunday Joint, by the way, listeners. This is the other podcast I do with my brother. Actually, if you're interested in surf history,
I'm talking about.
Swell Season.
I'm talking about this one actually. The one you did with Dion was really cool. I don't know if you heard that one, Mick, but that one was really cool as well.
Cerebral.
Like, he's really
cerebral. It's really. It gets
There's a lot in there.
It gets intense, but it's great. And like Dion's doing some amazing work, like unearthing a lot of Tom Blake stuff right now, and really rediscovering Tom Blake and how much he has in common almost with like one of his favorite philosophers. And there's, God equals nature, and, the anatomy of an atom and all that sort of stuff. Like it's all metaphysical. And, it's really good.
Yeah, I'll plug that one. I haven't even gotten all the way through it, and I'm just like, wow, this is all great stuff.
We're gonna have to wrap up soon, but I want to ask, like, what are you riding right now? What's the board of choice at the moment?
Okay. Having my relationship with Morris means I've got
healthy quiver.
Bit of a nice healthy quiver. Yeah, healthy quiver. He's making me a 7'6" twin pin at the moment. Yeah, but no, look, I've got my go-to probably would be. For like little waves, I've got what's called a hipster, which is a 5'8" quad fin like disc, which has got a bit of range. I can take it out in 5-foot bells sort of thing if I want. Then I've got a 6-foot fish of again Morris, which is got a very deep tail swallow, but it's an inverse curve to what you normally expect from a swallow, and it's probably 10 inches deep, it's super deep. I got him to cut it double what he normally cut it. Like he was doing it, and he looked at, I said, mate, make it deeper. And he cut an extra 3 or 4 inches.
Sounds like a Mirandan kind of tail, you know?
Yeah, it is very much one of those. And that board, like if I can catch a sort of 8 foot wave, it'll hang in there and go. But it belts, and then I've got a 6'9" proto, which is good, you know, like again, like I had sort of 8 foot plus bells a week before last on that, and that's really silky and really nice. Then I've got a 7'8" proto sort of gun that's a fantastic board. That's one of the best boards I've had ever, and I rode 10, 12 foot bells on my 66th birthday last year, and I got a 12-page spread in Surfing World with that because it was so bloody out there weird that I had a day out on my 66th birthday. It was as perfect bells as I've ever seen. Like 50 years of surfing there, it was the best I've seen it. And what had happened was it had been a bit offshore cross northeasterly, but like northwest being the ideal all day. And I'd had a friend down, stayed overnight, my mate Maurice, and he not a surfer, and we had breakfast and went to the cafe and and I said, Mo, it's offshore, I've got to go for a surf. And he said, yeah, all right, I've got to go up to Melbourne anyways, blah blah. So I turned up at Bells, and I'm on the phone to Morris driving into the car park at Winky, and it was packed, and looking between the cars, and I said holy shit, MC, it's pumping. I'm out there hung up. And then I got down, and it's like low tide, and Bells was like 12 foot sets, and like it's like 5 times overhead. And I thought, how the hell am I going to get out, because it's low tide? So I walked down like 2 kilometres to the west to get behind the reefs at what's called Jarosite, which are these barrier reefs down the way. And I paddled out behind the reefs, then paddled out to sea.
Dry hair paddle out?
In the gap after the reefs. Dry hair. And got out the back. So you're about 800, 900 metres out the back, and then paddled to Bells, and then had 3 hours of the best surf, and there was 5 guys out, and it was just pumping, like it was perfect. And I think I got 12 waves, didn't wipe out. Once I did where I got, but it was sort of like a semi-wipe out because I was actually trying to get out of the wave and got absolutely caned. And then made a wave through the button, which, if anyone knows Bells, is almost impossible. So
wait, you made it
like I've not seen
past the button?
Past the button.
Shut the front door.
Shut the front door.
Yeah,
so you made it into Winky, basically. Is that?
Yeah, just the beginning of Winky. Yeah, I got out then, but
could you have kept going into
basically
Winky?
On a shelf. No, I would have died if I kept going because it was like 3 feet deep or something. It was ridiculous. But I went. I'm going. I've got it past it. I've got a picture online on my Instagram of it, but somewhere. But anyway, so that was just the most special day, and because I couldn't put a foot wrong relatively, like again, I'm not. I've got a tendency to do my off the top a little bit. About 2 feet under the lip instead of doing a John, so it's kind of that sort of critical thing. But it was a fabulous surf, and it was, I thought, how am I going to top that? And so that board is like got a very close to my heart. And then I've got a 9.6 Morris gun, like for big waves.
Because it wasn't big enough that day. That's for the outer Bombora. The outer Bombora.
No, there's a way. Really, look, I get down there very occasionally. There's some waves that are on another Victorian coast that is unmentioned.
Is this where Wayne Lynch windsurfs too in Storm Riders?
Well, yeah, I suppose. But no, there's a wave down there that is like unbelievable. There's a couple of waves and that particular board's for that, and big belts, like bigger belts. But it's just like bells is like as a big wave is relatively easy. The one down the coast is basically like it can be like, I can't talk about it almost, but it can be like Kira or like Winky Pop at 15 foot type